Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of The Pursuit to Being a Stand-Up Leader. We're breaking down John's book, Be a Stand-Up Leader, the ABCs of getting the job done right, chapter by chapter. This chapter, we're talking about consistency. And John, off camera, you were just talking about a story with your dad.
Yeah.
And why don't you start off with that? I think it was a...
Thanks, Jared. This is an interesting subject because it crosses over into a couple different realms. And the first perspective I want to bring to the conversation is about consistency with how you treat your employees. My dad was a stand-up leader. I think he had something to do with me getting to this point with his book because I was immersed in it all the time. But one of the best leadership lessons I learned from him is 3 simple rules. First one is, if you're going to roll out an initiative, and I'll just use a contest or a new product rollout or whatever, and there's going to be some motivational support behind it, make sure the rules are fair. Second thing is make sure everybody understands what the rules are. And the third thing is make sure the rules apply to everybody equally. There aren't people who get special treatment if you want to unify your group and bring them together in a proper way. So change can be positive when everybody understands the why and what the desired outcome is. But if you change the rules or change the program midstream and you cause your people to have to go back and renege, it creates dissonance with the people.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult because eventually it's like crying wolf.
Right.
I'm going to make a change. Well, I know based on your previous experience and performance, that change isn't going to stick.
Yep.
You're going to change your mind again in 3 months or 6 months because you do it all the time.
Yep.
So the next time you roll out a change as an employee, I'm going to wait and see.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not going to jump on board right away because I don't want to go making a big deal about something and then in 3 months have to go back to my customers and explain to them that it's changed and what I told you before is no longer applicable.
I was working for a company that would change promotions daily, and they were expecting the customer to buy right there on the spot,
right?
Without
instant gratification.
Yeah. You're talking about $10,000-$20,000 deals,
right?
And you're not going to allow the customer to talk to their spouse or see if they can make it work with their banks or
hard close them.
Hard close them, and if they didn't move forward, then the deal was off the table because there'd be a new deal,
right? Because
they're just reaching for sales. It was all about the sales.
No consistency.
Yeah, you have to be consistent in what you're going to promote.
I love that example.
Yeah.
Because it happens.
It was ridiculous. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. It's like, how do I build a campaign for this?
You can't.
You're throwing out different things.
You can't. Another application you mentioned in terms of the subject of consistency is how you roll out your marketing. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I've talked with a couple businesses and they're like, oh, we tried this for 3 weeks and it didn't work. And then we just stopped doing it. I'm like, well, what are you doing? What? 3 weeks is not a long time.
Right.
You have to at least give it 90 days,
right?
3 months at the minimum to see if it's going to work.
3 years in my world.
3 years in your world. I think there's like certain like direct mail campaigns, 2 years at minimum to really see how it's going to benefit the calls and your underlying marketing.
Real estate people have a saying where if they're going to do direct mail, they're going to do it 7 times to the same audience.
Yeah.
How do you know when somebody's house is going to go up for sale?
Yeah.
You have to be consistent.
Yeah. So when we did direct mail campaigns, we would hit some zip codes,
Yeah.
12 months, because we wanted to grow in those
Build
areas.
frequency over time, horizontal frequency.
Yes. That customer is gonna see your brand multiple times every month, because you're not only doing direct mail, you're optimizing your budget to hit that zip code as much as possible with your brand, so that you're able to increase the reach,
the effectiveness.
Yeah, the effectiveness.
Yeah, it's interesting because without consistency and without committing to enough time to let the market respond, you're not going to be able to build enough frequency. You're competing against how much other competitors and other investment levels. If, let's talk about maybe you're going to put in a new HVAC system.
Yeah.
Frozen. Let's say you're going to put in a new HVAC system, and I totally lost my train of thought there.
I think that having an HVAC system, you want to be consistent to branding and messaging. So the amount advertisements and competitors.
Right.
Customers are going to see about 10,000 advertisements per day from about 4,000 different competitors.
Right.
And when a customer is looking for a service that you may provide, 90% of customers, when they go to search for your service online, don't have a brand in mind when they're searching. So you want to consistently keep your brand in front of those customers through a variety of different marketing tactics to make sure that when they need a service or a product that you offer, they're going to think of your brand.
That's what I was trying to get to before I froze up.
Okay.
Really, the reality is in terms of home services businesses, you can be consistent in advertising. You don't know when that furnace is going to break.
Exactly.
You don't know when that air conditioner is going to go out. It could be 100 degrees tomorrow.
Yeah.
A triggering event needs to occur. And then they're going to go to their positioning ladder in their mind. Who have I heard about? Who do I know of? Who do I feel best about branding? And who do I feel is going to be able to solve my problem honestly, affordably, and fast? So that's what I was trying to get to, is that triggering event must occur. Therefore, as a business, you need to be consistent, because you don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know when they're going to need your service.
You don't know where the buyer is within the buyer's journey. And that's like an infinity type symbol. And so they might be looking at stuff. So you want to consistently put out content that is going to connect with the customer. That's why social media marketing is a necessary evil. You have to consistently put out content that relates to the customer. It's going to bring value to that customer. And then I would say like an 80-20% rule. 80% of the time, you're going to build value. You're going to build information. You're going to connect with the customer. You're going to share your culture. 20% of the time, it's going to be a sales post or something like that.
Yeah, the old formula for marketing was attention, interest, desire, and action. This is where they decide to buy. Your consistency is attention, interest, and desire. You need to be out in front with that audience. And the way I coach my clients on advertising investment is set a budget that you can maintain consistently, even if it's only $200 or $300 a month, which is not a lot of money. But I'd rather have you be there consistently over the course of the next 36 months, so that when the market opens up and the buyer has a triggering event, they'll think of you, they'll call you, and you'll get the job.
One thing, I work with coaches and solopreneurs quite often, and I tell them, you need to get on video, because you're providing a service. You help people work through roadblocks or difficulties so that they can live the best life that they can live. You can do this through video. You can create that connection, that rapport, This video is the second best way to create those relationships, that type of stuff, because you're serving those customers, your audience, valuable information based on the struggles that they're experiencing. Most coaches aren't doing anything with video, and I tell them that you have to start, but whatever you can do it in a way that's going to be consistent. And I break down certain ways like batching, repurposing, and those types of things kind of help offset the time it takes to build video content. For me, when I batch record, I'm batching several episodes at a time. And right now I'm overseeing 4 or 5 different channels that are batched out until the end of September.
Wow.
So I don't have to worry about content.
They're
set to go. So now I can focus on working on my business instead of in my business.
And what's next for your client too.
Right. Yeah.
So video, after you invest in the creation, the production of the videos, it's a good slow release investment over time.
Yeah.
Advertising, on the other hand, is pay to play. You're paying to push your message out. A commercial, a written commercial, an advertisement, whether print, TV, radio, whatever, has a different perception than a video like this, where we're sitting down, 2 professionals, talking about the real world and talking about problems that people are faced with and ways to solve them. It's a lot different than a paid commercial.
Let me ask you a question since you brought this up. What if a paid commercial had a real world struggle or pain point, and it was solved in that 30-second mark? So now you're breaking down the traditional form of advertisement and creating this 30-second commercial that has a hook and tells about the pain points, and then has the brand being the solution
testimonial
to that story. A testimonial would work too. I think there's different, I don't know, it was a weird tangent.
It's an interesting concept from a creative perspective, because you're taking what we're talking about in terms of video production and boiling it down into a 30-second ad. Yeah, very challenging from a creative standpoint. But you've seen infomercials. That's what we're talking about in some respect. You know, an infomercial can be a half an hour. We're talking difference between 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes. You know, deliverables in terms of messaging. It's hard to keep people's attention beyond a flash in the pan. You know how it is with social media. Boom, here it goes, there it goes. So video has a little better staying power. And once you make the investment, it stays. You can reuse it. You can republish it. You publish it on channels. It's a smaller audience per se, but it's a better messaging strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you have to do it consistently. You can't just throw it out there and be like, oh, that's like going back
it's a waste of money if you do that.
Yeah, it's almost like going back to reactive versus proactive marketing.
Yeah.
You react to all these calls and jobs that you have, and you stop marketing. And then when things die out, you start marketing.
That happens.
Yeah,
you get busy doing something else.
Yeah. So when I got hired into my last job, that was the experience that they were experiencing, because they were reacting to the marketing, the calls, the volume, and stuff like that. You break out your marketing plan, go back $200 a month, whatever you can do for the next 36 months. Do it consistently and be proactive about what you're doing, how you're messaging, how you're contacting, what touch points you're having with your customers. And that's going to allow you not only to impact more customers, it's going to be able to create brand awareness throughout your market, grow in certain areas, and then help you scale your business. And if you're not growing, I mean, if you're in a business and you're comfortable just doing what you're doing, cool. But if you're not looking for ways to grow, then you're not going to grow. And you have to be proactive about that. You have to be consistent about what you're doing with your marketing.
If you can't afford to spend large amounts of money on advertising, on a campaign, or you can't afford to have a full-fledged video production series use your phone.
Oh, yeah. The technology nowadays
Right.
is so easy.
You should be able to do it yourself.
Yep.
And even doing it yourself consistently
Yep.
is better than not doing it all. I will guarantee any client I work with that if you stick with the plans that I lay out for 3 years, you will achieve an ROI, you will achieve your desired outcome, and we will exceed your expectations because it's the long game. You need to be in it long enough to let the market get to know you and come around and respond. And you have to be there for them when they have a triggering event. Furnaces last 10 years.
Yep.
So if you're not in front of your audience the year that their furnace breaks, somebody else is.
Yeah, exactly.
You can avoid that by being consistent.
I think that this made me think of like when there's a lull in the economy, a lot of companies pull back on their marketing.
Yeah.
That's a huge mistake.
I know.
Because you want to make sure that your customers know that you're still there and that you're still going to be there for your customers.
Right.
So you want to boost up your marketing so that you offset what your competitors are doing.
You'll note that big advertisers with unlimited budgets, they're advertising all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's just the way it is. They can afford to be there. Smaller business owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, you can do this. You can create a podcast. Yep. You can use video. And you need to set your budgets up so you can sustain a consistent presence.
Yes. You just have to continue to bring value on a consistent level. Small steps over a period of time build up to big things. I think about a personal story. I lost 100 pounds in a year by consistently rowing for 9 minutes every day. I committed to 9 minutes and I rowed for 9 minutes and I lost 100 pounds.
Are you still rowing?
I'm still rowing. Well, I've incorporated other exercises as well.
Right.
But that's adapting and
that
evolving.
Worked.
And yeah, it worked.
Because you were consistent.
Yes. Yeah. So even if you don't see something happening right away, you have to, I think there's a time cutoff frame, but if it's 3 weeks, it's not long enough.
Right.
You have to give it time. You have to build up the audience, build up the algorithm so they all understand what you're about, what you're doing, and then consistently put out content. And you can do it on an organic level too. There's a lot of things that you can do organically.
Wow.
To help build value on social media. Like
that costs nothing.
That costs nothing. It just costs your time. But if you batch record or you batch content create, that's going to help optimize and compound your time.
I really like this conversation. We covered some topics that I didn't cover in the book because the book is not a tome. It's easy to read and it's addressing certain things, but I really like the point that you made about being consistent with your marketing.
Yeah. I agree. It just comes down to being consistent.
And be consistent as a leader too.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Don't be up and down and all around and changing all the time because you lose your people.
Right.
And you need to have everybody on the same page.
Yep.
So thanks for being with us today. Proud to be here with Jared Whitman from Whitman Media. I'm John Russell from the Business Source. Look forward to seeing you again.